Ah, yes. Good afternoon, people. Yes, I have been drinking. I really should have added this yesterday to the four steps that happen post mass shootings. But anyway, didn't see much of it thus far until I saw the stupidity on Twitter. Now, the mind of a leftist is a very peculiar thing. See, in normal people, I say normal, common sense seems to not be very common these days. There's these traits called logic and reason. Now, leftists don't have these. Their minds are hollow or filled with these illogical, irrational things called emotions, and that is why so many females are Democrats. But anyway, one of the additional steps is this crap. Maker of rifle in Texas massacre is deep-pocketed GOP donor. As if everyone doesn't already know this. Breaking news, the GOP is the party of guns. No shit. But what neither side of the aisle seems to grasp is politicians don't give a shit about you or your issues. People are so wrapped up in this us versus them tribalistic mentality. Meanwhile, the politicians don't give an asshole. The same way that voting is but a means to an end for a politician's power, the same way a politician is just a means to an end for the donor class's power. To the donor class, the politicians are NPCs. They're just chess pieces. They're just pawns. They don't give a damn. If one politician won't do their bidding, they will finance someone who will. It doesn't matter which party it is. These people don't have political rigidity. They have vested interests, and they'll pick the winning team that will pass what they want. Welcome to politics. It's nothing but a giant pay-to-play scheme. But Michael Malice had this excellent point about the phrase rhino. When people say, for example, Mitt Romney is not a real Republican, based on what? He votes around 90% aligned with other Republicans. How is he not a real Republican? The Republican that exists in the mind of those who use the phrase rhino isn't real. It's this high-minded moral statesman that has never existed. It's completely mythical. And he's right. It's probably my biggest gripe with anyone who is into politics. Completely abandon your Western ideals of what politics should be and focus purely on the incentive structure of human nature. Because if you filter the actions of the political apparatus purely through your idealism of what you were taught or how you think the system is supposed to function, you are going to drive yourself completely insane. See if you can find a way to oppose one party without joining the other. Savvy? Good. But back to the brain and stupidity of a leftist. And yes, this is common sense. It is said over and over again, but for some reason, it does not seem to permeate into the non-existent logic of a leftist. Actually, now that I'm saying that out loud, that is probably the reason why. But the donating of a gun manufacturer thing has never and will never make any sense. And I'll contribute this to misinterpretation rather than sheer stupidity. Probably against my better judgment, it is most likely stupidity, but anyway. Freedom, shockingly enough, has the capacity to produce both good and bad results. For example, eating food prevents starvation. However, eating too much of it can turn one into a human cannonball. And given the size of some leftists, we can correctly assume this is a diet strategy that many of them seem to adopt. Apparently, income inequality does not encapsulate caloric excess. Now, in the wake of the shooting, we can often see an increase in gun sales, and the cynical leftists will say, oh, gun manufacturers love mass shootings because they get more profit. And they will never touch the other side of that conversation, which is, no, I want to be able to protect myself. And as we can see in the wake of the Texas debacle, the state's grotesque level of sheer fucking incompetence is staggering. And people do not want to rely on the damn state for their safety, so they would rather take matters into their own hands. But let's just say, hypothetically, you were a stone-cold psychopath driven purely by profit in your gun sales. Would you favor events that cause a shrieking minority to blame you for every tragedy and do their Karen-like best to pull your product off the market? No, you would not be in favor of that. You would find that quite irritating. So no, gun manufacturers do not in fact favor mass shootings. That's a stupid fucking argument. But funny, the same people who piss and moan about the citizens buying guns to defend themselves have no problem with those same manufacturers shipping their arms to a war zone to kill other people. It's almost like they're inconsistent hypocrites. And that's all for today. Until next time.